imagination, prophecy, enlightenment, and truth. These are the four principles of the Transcendent Worlds. 4 worlds, fitted with galaxies, realms, and planets abound. Who am I, you may ask? I am the mysterious stranger. I will be your guide through these vast worlds. Worlds fitted into these universes. These are the tales that we wish to tell, that I have the honor to share with you. These are the tales of the verse.
Hope, like science, must be experimented on. There must be a hypothesis, research, and all manner of things done, so that one may find the light in the darkness. Hope is the ever-beating beacon that we all seek for in our lives. And like science, it requires work, study, and slowly but surely that flame of enlightenment awakens all senses. And even in the most dire situations, it is most especially needed.
Attention all citizens of Plymouth City. Be on the lookout for the resistance group known as S.T.A.T.I.C. They will be moving in large groups, carrying a radio device. If you have discovered one of these members of the resistance group known as S.T.A.T.I.C, please report them immediately.
Detective Bradford went up the cobblestone steps. His steps were heavy that day. It had been a long and difficult day, and he was ready to get on with it. Entering inside the compound, there the golden letters on the front entrance, with a large golden statue engraved into the cobblestone above. The words saying, Helix, innovation for the minds of the gods. Bradford smirked slightly, with distasteful satisfaction. He entered through and past the white columns, and entered into a large room. A red carpet covered the entire floor, soft, smooth, silky. Bradford was very focused and keen on stepping across the carpet with a smooth stride, focusing on his stance like that of a panther on the hunt for its prey. He strode up to the front desk. Large white cobblestone desk it was, carved so smoothly and nice, it looked like something you would see in a gallery. And there, a tight, shrill woman, with red lipstick, a tied-up black bun hair, and a smooth gray dress. Her face was pale, and sharp and pointed like that of a bird. She noticed Bradford. She took one peek at him and then looked down back at her papers, as if he didn't truly exist. "Do you have an appointment?" she said with a disgusted voice. "Well, no, but I do have a warrant here, directly signed from the constable, that I'm allowed to search these premises." He put down a leather-bound book, small, not many pages within it, used for documentation throughout the city, with the official seal of the Officers' Guild. I will have to speak with someone before I allow you to enter.
Lady, I need to enter this premises right away. I've been sent directly by the constable.
I do not care if you were sent by Mr. Sinclair himself. I need documentation be verified by the lead scientist. One moment.
She stepped away in tall, gray high heels, that as Bradford saw them, they reminded him of tall city towers. Bradford figured she'd be the type to wear such heels. Someone with such an uptight personality like herself was so gray and shrill and resistant to anyone who would come near her. He imagined that she was the opposite of the open book, a rigid hard stone, enclosed, hidden from everything else. She turned back, looking at Bradford before she left the room.
You may take a seat while you wait. You may top yourself off if you wish. I'll be back in a moment.
As she left, Bradford turned to the seating arrangement nearby. White leather with red padding. He took a seat. No interest in a drink. He needed to focus. His task was very important.
Thank you. That was one of our boys from off to the West Coast. We'll now have another that'll be from our hometown here in Plymouth, which he'll be playing a nice golden tune known as the Symphony for the Night. But before we do that, we have a quick word from our sponsor, a message from our great leaders of the city. Take it away. Innovation, man's work, art, and tomorrow. These are the principles and the founding rights of all mankind. Who says it better than Dr. Silas Sinclair himself, the scientist who discovered quantum mechanics? Through his brilliant mind and genius, he challenged the works of God and declared, "If there is a God, then he has abandoned us." No finer words have been spoken in all of history, and now we see through his eyes, his vision. And with the help of Rosemary Pumblecorn, Darius Scrooge, and Carmilla de Vula, we are able to achieve all success. One nation, one man, one power, science!
Bradford stared blankly at the telescreen above. It was large and overbearing, with a black and white static-y look to it. It fizzed in and out as each word was loudly spoken through the speakers and on the screen. His face, his eyes, they couldn't bear it any longer. He looked down but could still hear the words echo through the halls.
No other nation can challenge such power. With the might of the Meadowmen, all can be protected and feel secure in the city of Plymouth. With the Meadowmen's might, we'll be able to shut out all dark forces in this terrible...
Mr. Bradford. Bradford looked up quickly and saw a small man in a white trench coat, glasses peaked over his nose, barely hanging on, and a bald head. This man looked somewhat yellow in the face, almost sickly, but he had a wide grin that creepily went across from cheek to cheek.
Mr. Bradford, I am Dr. Cornelius Rampart. I am head of the establishment here. How can I help you?
Bradford, caught off guard, quickly looked at the screen and backed at the doctor, as if still focused on the words that were playing throughout the hall. Yes, sorry, let me collect myself. Standing up, he stood 2 feet taller than the doctor, he noticed. Ramford remarked in his mind that he himself was not that tall. Only 5'10" to be exact. The doctor must have been very short, very small, and very happy to see him. Now, my documentation I did give to... Yes, my receptionist did get to it. Miss Creasley always must inspect all of our visitors. Now, how can I help you? Well, I was sent by the constable. Look into the disappearance of 2 of our inmates at Bastion Gate. Bastion Gate? The old prison? Not so old, I wouldn't say, Bradford remarked to himself. But as he said this, the doctor did not look pleased with his words. To me, young man, it is an old place. It has been around since I myself was a boy. I saw many a criminal be cast away into that place. The justice system then was much more loose than it is now. However, we are much more stricter with the wise guidance of our government. Yes, I would say so. They stared at each other awkwardly for a moment, until finally Dr. Cornelius spoke up. Now, in terms of your request, what exactly was it that the constable inquired for? 2 inmates? Seems quite odd to have a low-ranking officer. A detective, Bradford spoke up. A detective. I'm an official detective of Plymouth City. He sent me on here on the regards of finding these 2 inmates to see what happened to them. I don't believe that they were authorized to leave that prison. Now, by the state's laws means nothing here. You do realize that this institution is directly funded by Dr. Silas Sinclair, do you not? Bradford bit his tongue. Clenching his fist to the side, he removed them to his back, holding them together. Trying to keep his composure, he looked down at the doctor. Well, I've been sent by the constable. I will not leave until I have fulfilled my purpose here. Now, Dr. Cornelius, will you kindly lead me through these halls to help me find these inmates? Then I'll be out of here. The doctor smirked at this remark. Yes, out of my hair. Well, if you are so determined on being here, please follow me this way. The doctor gestured his hand towards the stairs, and the 2 of them began to walk. Suddenly, Dr. Cornelius, right before they stepped onto the first flight of stairs, stopped and turned towards his secretary and spoke in a soft, low, and menacing voice. Mrs., I would like for you to take down the books. Yes? The secretary looked back at Dr. Cornelius with a strange look. Yes, take down the books. You heard me. Her face flushed with a pale white. She quickly turned, opened a door to the side, and rushed in. Dr. Cornelius turned back to Bradford and looked up to the stairs and said, Let us continue. As they went up the stairs, there were many flights. They eventually reached a top area with a long hall stretched, with a singular red carpet in the middle. The walls had paintings of all kinds. There was an initials at the bottom of each of them that read F.W. in nice cursive writing. "You'll have to forgive my secretary. I have her take down the records of all visitors and all of our staff. Once in a while, she has been quite forgetful of late."
I see. Well, hopefully it will not disturb my visit here. I am very curious to know what it is you do here.
Dr. Cornelius, looking down at the floor, did not respond.
These paintings are quite fine, Bradford said awkwardly.
The silence was deadly. It almost took the breath out of Bradford as they walked. "Yes, I do care for the works of the great Felicia White."
Felicia White? I didn't know she did paintings for this establishment. Or, I mean, institution.
"Indeed." Dr. Cornelius, grinning slightly, but with less energy or enthusiasm, turned to Bradford and then looked down the hall. "This institution works in many capacities, my dear Detective Bradford. You see, science requires many institutions to dive into the many secrets of nature."
Intriguing. And these secrets of nature, do they ever involve a live subject?
"You're referring to human trials, are you not?"
I think you knew what I meant.
Dr. Cornelius's grin quickly faded away. "Yes. Occasionally we need live subjects. If we are to understand the very nature of science, we must use those who still breathe. Dead organisms are very useless. Unless the experiment calls for it, of course, but that is rare."
And what of live subjects? What would, perhaps, 2 criminal inmates have to do with...
"Do not overstep your bounds, detective." Dr. Cornelius stood in front of the detective, crossing forward, and they came to a direct halt. His face at Bradford was one like a cunning animal, but nothing too ferocious like a wolf or a lion. No, it was more like a weasel or a badger. His teeth snarling, still in that grin, but almost flashing his teeth as if he were about to bite him. "This establishment carries many secretive projects that are directly overseen by the government over the protection of the city of Plymouth and the state of Mandela."
I understand that. But you have to understand that I am the law, and no one is above the law. Now, you may have the laws of nature, do you not? That you must abide by with science?
The doctor thought for a moment. Perhaps. But the laws of nature are to be challenged. Science can unlock it with many keys. As for the laws of justice, you must be in the streets to take care of those vagabonds and criminals. We allow the criminals, you might say, or the inmates, to have a chance at more.
More as in what? To be able to experiment on them?
Experimentation, I assure you, yes, but it is of the safest and most secure way possible.
Then why won't you allow me to see it?
The doctor stopped for a moment. He returned to his great big grin that he originally had shown to the detective on their first meeting. "Oh, detective, you can't get any more from me. I see your words, your abilities serve you well. Now, let us continue."
Bradford followed the doctor.
Ah, here we are. My office.
They came to a large white door. The gold plaque on the front read, Dr. Cornelius Rumpart, Head Scientist. As they entered in, Bradford felt a strong, musty smell come over him.
Yes. It has been quite unused for a time. I tend to walk the halls and check on all of the experiments and research being conducted in the lower quadrant.
The two sat down, and for a while neither spoke. The silence grew very heavy and very strong. Bradford could see every wrinkle moving across ever so slightly on the face of Dr. Cornelius. He had seen many things. His eyes revealed it all. Now, when am I going to see the inmates?
Quite soon, I imagine. Quite soon.
Dr. Cornelius smiled. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to see those inmates, aren't I? The good doctor leaned back in his red-silver chair and peered at Bradford with inspectful eyes.
I would think not. An officer of your station should not be allowed to see that which has been classified above your station. I do find it curious that the constable would want to investigate 2 random inmates from Bastion Hold. However, I'm curious to hear your side of the story.
My side?
Well, the constable sent you in, and I'm sure a detective would want to do his duty, but it is quite curious to have you here, is it not?
I suppose it is. As they spoke to one another, a phone rang nearby.
And we were just about to get to know each other. One moment.
The doctor picked up the phone. Bradford quickly felt tension in the room. Perhaps this was the moment. He didn't know how long he would have once entering into the institution, but he knew he wouldn't have long. He studied Dr. Cornelius as he talked on the phone. The doctor did not say much, but his face said it all. His eyes began to droop somewhat, his grin slowly fading away, and his eyes fixed ever more and more on Bradford.
I see. Yes. Thank you for letting me know. I will attend to that momentarily.
The doctor put down the phone as Bradford slyly slid his hand into his coat, as if to appear he was folding his arms. What was that?
Oh, it was just a matter down below. We had a spill of chemicals. Quite obnoxious, I dare say.
The doctor said this as he stared intently at Bradford. Regardless of a smile or even a gesture of benevolence, Bradford could tell behind the eyes hid hate and fear. Well, that is quite unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
They stared at one another for a minute. and eventually the doctor stood up. Turning away, he began to speak, almost as if he was speaking to the wall, almost reminiscing to himself. "It's quite strange. I didn't think that we would have any visitors today. In fact, I had hoped that today would go quite normal. Wouldn't you agree, Detective?" Bradford could sense that the words were opening up the truth. Whatever Doctor had heard on the phone, it was graver than he knew. "I suppose." The Doctor opened up a drawer with his key and began to slide through a couple of files. "Bradford, that name, it's quite ordinary, wouldn't you say?" Bradford digged deeper into his coat and found the hilt and began to grip it hard. "Well, it was my father's name, back on a farm." "Farm? What farm? Please do tell. I love a good story." He noticed the Doctor slipping his hand deep into one of the files. "Well, let's just say I got the name because he was so proud of his family that he wanted someone to carry on the good name of his..." And he saw the Doctor slip something into his pocket, and then turn towards Bradford, closing the drawer slowly, trying to pretend and put it off as something very subtle and non-existent. "For his good work, you might say." Yes. I would dare say." The two stared each other down, the Doctor building up moisture on the top of his head, which shined and betrayed him in the light. Bradford continued to keep a small smile, revealing only a bit of his teeth. But he knew the jig was up. It has been a pleasure, Detective. I will love to see you again. See you soon." "Well, I suppose I might just have to get going." "Oh, there's no need to rush. We have all the time in the world, Detective." Dr. Cornelius began to take 3 steps forward. But before he could reach another step, and before his hand could come out of his right pocket, Bradford slipped out the gun he had been concealing. It was not an ordinary gun. It was long, with faded red paint on it. It had a fin like that of a shark on the back of it, a coil coming out of the left side, and on the right, a small glass bulge which had strange glowing colors in it. The front of the gun was a long nozzle, and at the end of it, the barrel swirled. And in a quick flash, a green reddish light came out. And the Doctor had half of his body blown into the wall. I got you, you son of a..." Before he could finish his words, he heard the alarm go off.